This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday night, which means it's on the ball. On the ball with all the latest news and talking points. The brand new show here on Always Wolves Fan TV and the Always Wolves podcast. We're live across YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And this week, I'm joined by the doctor himself, Dr. Paul Mansell, who is looking very suave this evening. How are you doing, Paul?
Hi, Dave. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Hope you're well as well.
Fantastic. And we're going to be talking about all the main talking points of the week. And the two main talking points, really, is the transfer of Wolves Capitano, 253 appearances for the club, Mr. Ruben Neves, who has not gone for Barcelona. He has, as was rumoured and suggested, signed for Saudi Arabian side Al Hilal for £47 million. We're going to get a little bit more stuck into that. We've got two young guests that are sitting backstage, Lewis and Lucas, that had quite a little bit to do with Ruben Neves throughout the last 5 or 6 years through their dad and their dad's company. And they will be able to give us a little bit of an insight on Ruben, the man. We're also going to be talking about the Wolves away kit that has been released this week, the red away kit. Obviously, we've done the polls. You've probably seen the review that we did. And we're going to get Paul's view on that. And we're also going to get Lewis's and Lucas's view on that as well. And we'll obviously want to get your views on that. And then we're going to be also taking your questions. And Paul wants to talk a little bit about Nathan Collins as well, with Brentford moving very, very close to the 25 million Wolves are supposedly looking at. Already, we've got 88 live watching, and I know thousands of you watch it back and listen to it on the podcast as well. And we've got loads of people saying good evening. So, Paul, first of all, let's get stuck into the main talking point. And everyone wants to know, Paul, did you cry when Ruben Neves left this post?
It got me a bit misty-eyed watching it. I think he was really brave, doing that video, because he could have easily have hidden behind just a written statement that had come out. So it just shows the measure of the man, really, that he was prepared to be filmed, knowing he'd probably get upset and speaking like that. So hats off to him for being so brave in doing that video.
Absolutely. I wonder when do you think that video was done? Maybe Lewis and Lucas may even know this when we asked them, but when did you think the video was done?
It's hard to know, isn't it? Because I don't think he gives away much about his future in the video. It's more about thanking the fans and the past 6 years. So it's hard to know, really. I mean, he's been away with Portugal, hasn't he? On international duty over the last week, 10 days. So it may have been filmed for a while, and I think they would have been quite sure that he was moving on this summer anyway, for a while. So, yeah, my bet is that it's probably been filmed for a couple of weeks, maybe.
Possibly. As you say, he was away in Portugal playing with the Portuguese national side. But the signing to Al Hilal was actually in Paris, and it's only a short hop from Paris to think. So, potentially could have done it once the sign, and it might have been something that he wanted to do. But if he was definitely, because it's only really transpired in the last week, hasn't it? Because we all thought, from what I was told last season, Ruben Neves had moved all his gear out of his house. He would go into Barcelona. He waved us goodbyes last season, the season before last, tear in his eye. Then it fell through. And again, it was being reported that personal terms had been agreed with Barcelona. And they just basically messed him about again. And then obviously Al Hilal have come in. They're spending, so much money at the moment. I think they've announced another signing today. I looked on their Twitter. They've got 11.2 million followers on Twitter. Al Hilal. Do you know how many followers Wolves have on Twitter?
Just over 1 million.
1.2 million.
Yeah.
And Wolves are a Premier League team, and Al Hilal have got 11.2 million followers, which is like 10 times more than Wolves, which surprised me really. What do you make about the move, Paul?
I've been to-ing and fro-ing all weekend with lots of different thoughts and emotions about it. I mean, the first thing to say, obviously, it's really sad, isn't it? You know, that someone who, not just like our own fan base really have taken to, but I think it's fair to say the whole like British fan base have also taken to him. Sometimes you can get a player that divides opinion, that rubs up fans the wrong way. I'm thinking of someone like Bruno Fernandes, you know, undoubtedly a good player, but people don't like him as a character. But I think you'll struggle to find somebody who's got a bad word to say about Ruben. Even fans from other clubs, they admire him as well. And I think if any fan of any club in our country had signed Ruben, they'd have been delighted. So obviously really sad. But if you strip it back to this, right, our captain and our best player has not signed a new contract, and instead he's moved to Saudi Arabia and to play in a league that's ranked below the Scottish Premiership and just above the Italian Serie C. I find that really hard to get my head around, you know, that he hasn't signed a new contract with us and instead is elected to play in that league. You could not predict that. And I'm finding it really hard to comprehend that decision. I mean, I think we know what the driving force is and who the driving force is behind that as well. And it's probably not him. But yeah.
Are you referring to Mr. Mendes?
I am indeed. And we can't complain too much about him because we have to remember he's given us a lot of good things as well. But yeah, I find it hard to believe that Ruben really wants to go there. And I think he's part of a bigger plan and a bigger jigsaw that's happening.
Part of the carousel.
Yeah. You can't imagine him saying, get me a move to Saudi Arabia, can you? You can't imagine him.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think anyone that's gone there has said, get me a move to Saudi Arabia. The thing is, I mean, if you look at F1, there's money being pumped into that. They're getting a Formula One. If you look at the golf, what's happened with the golf and the money that's gone into there, and there the PGA have joined forces, money talks. You look at all the big boxing matches used to be in Vegas or Madison Square Garden. They're all going over to Saudi Arabia at all. It's like there's such an investment going into sports and there's a bottomless pit. I mean, the big shock about Ruben going there is like what you said is correct. I think we all know, and probably when Lucas and Lewis come on, they might be able to give us a little bit more on insight, that Ruben really wanted to go and play in the Champions League where he was playing with Porto when he moved to us. And his dream move was Barcelona. You know, that's what he wanted to do. I mean, they did the same to Adama Traore. He went over there and then they dropped him. It's like they seem to do this a lot. But the big surprise is that there's no one else really that's come in for Ruben. 1 year left on his contract. You would have thought a bid of around about 25, 27 million pounds within 1 year on his contract would have been enough for Wolves to have said yes, and he'd have gone to a Champions League club somewhere else in Europe. What's your take on the fact that no one else seemed to have come in for him?
Very surprising. I mean, think of someone who's in a similar situation. Declan Rice, he's got a year left. He's only 2 years younger. And again, like Ruben, he's very experienced for his age, a lot of international football. West Ham are not going to let him go for less than 100 million. So I think we still could have got a really good fee for him in the Premier League based on the Declan Rice scenario. But yeah, I'm amazed that Man United and Arsenal hasn't gone in for him, because he's got all the attributes to be a Champions League player. And and we all know that's where he belongs in terms of his ability and his attitude and his character. So, yeah, I'm amazed that a Premier League team hasn't come in for him. We know that he's happy in this country as well, speaks very good English. His family are very happy in the area. So it's a loss to the Premier League and European football as well, as much as it's a loss to us.
Absolutely. To be honest, as a Wolves fan, I don't think any Wolves fan really wanted him to go to another Premier League team because it would be hard for him to come back, especially initially to come back and play against Wolves. There's a bit of a talk about, okay, El Hilal are going to pay £47 million and is reported on somewhere between £300,000 a week, which is incredible money. But what's going to happen is they're then going to loan him back to Newcastle. I mean, I think that's laughable personally, but what's your take on that?
I don't know if it would be that surprising. I mean, can you really see him staying there for 3 years for his 3-year contract? It might be that Barcelona haven't got the money for him now, but they think they might have in 12 months' time. So it might just be a short-term stepping stone to Champions League football. So I don't expect him to stay there for his 3-year contract.
Well, possibly not. My take on that is that Newcastle are nowhere near any FFP problems. They haven't spent as much money already as people were saying they were going to be spending last season to get to where they are. If they wanted to have bought Ruben Neves, they could have got him for about 27, 30 million pounds tops. They'd have had an asset on their books, which is going to, increase as profit. I don't see any of this like, he's going there to go and play for Newcastle to get around FFP, because Newcastle aren't in any FFP problems. So it's an interesting one. Let's bring on Lewis and Lucas now to get their thoughts on on Ruben Neves. Let me just change the background first. Here they are. I'm just going to change it so that it looks a little bit neater. There we go. Welcome to the show, guys, for making your debut. How are you? Introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so hello, I'm Lewis, and this is Lucas. We're lifelong Wolves fans. We've been since we were born. We have a slightly closer relationship with the club than most, just because of the taxis that my family own. The Wentfield have been partners with Wolves for almost 3 decades now. So it's been since even my dad's only 44. So even when he was a kid, it was always it's always been around that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So do you want to just, I'm just going to play a little bit of a video here. This is, I think, is it Lucas, the video that I'm going to play?
Yeah.
So this is, let's play it from the beginning. So put your hand up. Who was on the pitch there doing the olays with, there you go. With Nuno, what did that feel like?
It felt like surreal because we just came off the win against Fulham as well, so it was just like important, and it was the last home game of the season as well. So it was just like important that, and it was like, just felt happy that I've always wanted to do it as well since he's been at the club. Fantastic.
And what's your take on Ruben Neves leaving, not to go to Barcelona but to go to Saudi Arabia? Were you taken by surprise?
Personally, I didn't think the move to Barcelona suited Neves and Barcelona. I think obviously with Sergio Busquets leaving, they will need a deeper midfielder. And although Ruben Neves, he certainly plays a lot deeper, has done over the past few seasons, I think he's not the right build for that role. Obviously, Pedri and Gavi are those two centre mids in front of Busquets. They're a bit more mobile, and they're probably a similar build to Neves, but I think he just lacks that physicality and a physical presence that someone like Rodri at Manchester City would have, and he just doesn't have that. So I think the owner of Barcelona, I think the president, he really pushed for Neves more than Xavi. So I think if he had gone, he may have spent a lot of the season on the bench or not really involved with the the starting lineup.
Paul, it seemed to know their stuff, didn't they? What's your take on that?
He's good enough to play for any team in Europe and do them proud. So I think the lads make a good point there about Rodri. Different with his physicality, maybe his height, his build. But if you were any Premier League or European team, Ruben Neves would add to your team for sure.
Absolutely. So you got to spend a little bit of time. Obviously, with Neves, because we're not going to say who the company is or anything like that, but your dad's involved with the company that does a little bit of work with Wolves, so you've got to see a little bit behind the scenes access to some of the players. Do you want to sort of talk through that and how have you found Ruben with your dealings with him and what he's like as a person? Because you've obviously had a chance to. I've met Ruben twice, but it was literally hello, shake his hand, thank you, that type of thing. And probably a bit the same with you, Paul, and your two girls. It's really just a hello, thank you very much for everything that you're doing. You've probably had a chance to have a sit and a talk and a chat to Ruben. What's he like as a person and what's his family like?
I would describe him and his family as very friendly, approachable, quite down-to-earth people. I remember when I was younger, the players that were at the club just after Mick McCarthy, they were very different to the players that came after Nuno's arrival. So like Neves and Jota, these players, they were much more friendly and approachable, and you could go up to them and you could have a conversation. I think after the end of the games, we would walk past the car park where the players parked, and they would often stop for every single person who was queuing for a picture, autograph, something like that. Whereas in the past, I don't think you had that as much. Some players would have, but not all. And I think the willingness to become involved with the city, shows a lot about his personality, because a lot of players don't, and they don't have to. But a 2-minute conversation can really change. It can leave a lasting impact on anyone's life. I always remember meeting players who, for a couple of minutes, just spending those, the time. Just having a chat. I think it's those moments are really special, and for players like Neves to give those moments, it's important.
And Lucas, what's talking to Ruben been like from your point of view?
It's been like different to any other player. Like it was more like a good a book character. Like he was like honest with everything he would say. Like he would never say anything like bad about a player. Like he would always agree with what you say, but then just word it differently. So he's getting his point of view across whilst agreeing with your point. And
did you ever talk to Ruben about his future ambitions or anything like that? Did he give you any insight into what he wanted to achieve? How much of a shock has it been for you that he'd not gone to Barcelona or somewhere else in Europe and he's ended up going to Saudi Arabia?
I think whilst he was, if we can think back to the Europa League season, he was, the whole group, the players, the Portuguese players, they were so proud, and I think there was a real ambition that we could take it that step further and get qualified for the Champions League if we had managed to get into, to the final and then eventually win the tournament. I think, I spoke to a few people after the game who were around the first team after the Seville game, and they assured me that if the pandemic hadn't have happened and we had got to that stage and we had to play Seville at Molineux in a second leg, we will have won that game. And then, obviously they went on to play Manchester United, and we always had such good games against that kind of team in those years. And I think that there was a strong ambition to carry on that project of taking Wolves the next step, and they all shared that ambition, including Ruben.
That's really good insight. Paul, that's really interesting what Lucas has had to say there regarding the Sevilla game. Obviously, we remember it. It got played behind closed doors. Raul had the penalty, missed it. First penalty he'd missed for Wolves. Sevilla were very dominant on the night, but Wolves were playing, as they often did under Nuno, with such resilience and defiance. And I think it was 85th minute that they got the goal, we're all hoping it could get to extra time and regroup and penalties and that type of thing. But it's interesting what Lucas had to say about the players, that if it had been a two-legged quarter-final as would have been, Wolves would have progressed across that tie. What are your thoughts?
I've never actually watched that match back, and the reason is when the match kicked off was the same time as my flight took off to come back from holiday. It was in August, wasn't it, I think, when it was played. So when the game kicked off at 8 o'clock or whatever it was, I had to turn my phone off. And I was in the air for 2.5 hours, and I didn't know the score, obviously, until we landed. So I've never watched it back, but I agree. The atmosphere we've seen for the FA Cup quarter-final, Man United, nobody's heard Molineux like that. And I'd like to think that would have been replicated for sure against Sevilla. Top-class team, though, aren't they? Sevilla, real pedigree. And obviously we've got their manager now, so hopefully he can bring some of that success in our direction.
And absolutely. And Lucas, are we all right to mention the company that your family runs? Is that okay to say?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so basically it's Wensfield Cars, and obviously as part of that they pick up and transport players to and from different things, sometimes from training. They're always on hand. Like when a new player arrives, you tend to pick them up and take them round and stuff like that. So that's kind of how you, because you know your dad's and your granddad's company do that type of thing, how you've come to sort of be able to share some of these experience with the players. It gives you quite a privileged position, doesn't it, really? And the one thing that comes across really, really well on the channel is like you're quite humble about it. You know, I mean, it's probably a lot of teenagers' dreams to be able to sit and have a chat with Ruben Neves, to be able to go on the pitch and do the pumping like what you've done with Nuno and that type of thing. So you know, what are your thoughts? You know, now Neves has gone, you know, on the future for next season. What's your take on, as a Wolves fan, young Wolves fans, because you've probably, you know, me and Paul are a bit longer in the tooth, shall we say, and we've seen a lot of pain. Whereas, you know, Lewis, you're 14, so the last 6 years since the age of 8, you've probably known nothing but Wolves for being in the Premier League. And it's almost similar to you. You probably remember the Championship and the pain and stuff a little bit more, Lucas. But how do you feel about Wolves as a club and the last sort of couple of years, and how are you feeling about next season at this point?
I think I saw a picture a few weeks ago, and it was of the team that were in the Europa League, and they were all players who had left, or obviously Adama Traore was in their squad, but his contract has expired and his future is obviously uncertain at the moment. But apart from Ruben, everyone had left in the Championship season. So I think the stage, the club's now, that project that the club had engaged with to get to the Europa League, I think it has concluded now with Neves' departure. I think it almost did a few seasons ago, maybe when Nuno left. But I think now there's a chance now for the club to really move forward. Obviously, there's been good arrivals. Julian Lopetegui is a fantastic manager, and you know he's won the Europa League himself. He's obviously managed Real Madrid and the Spanish national team. So I think it's great that things were good before, but also we're doing quite well now. You know, we have good potential. Obviously, Matt Hobbs, I think, is a good appointment at sporting director. I think he's made really smart signings with, you know, Mario Lemina for a low fee, really, in the grand scheme of things, for his output. The same with Craig Dawson. So I think that there's a lot to be excited about, but I think it will be different to how it was. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, because, of course, there were problems, and you know that team and that squad that was there previously, it had limitations itself.
Paul, they talk ever so well, don't they? Oh, by the way, we've got SJ that has put a little super chat. He wants you boys to give us a wave. There you go. Fantastic. Paul, the lads speak really, really well, don't they? I mean, what are you? They're coming across very well considering it's their debut as well, and very knowledgeable.
Very clear, yeah, making some great points, and I really like what they just said about it's an opportunity now for a new cycle to start, because that's looking at things in a positive way. We have got a good manager. He has made some good signings already. Let's see what we can bring in this summer, and hopefully we can regenerate and go again. They're completely right about the cycle has ended with the likes of Neves going from that Europa League squad. And we were really punching above our weight, weren't we, with that? I mean, I've had a season ticket for 32 years now, and I've never seen us finish that high. And we finished 7th, haven't we, twice in the Premier League. But other than that, we've been very much Championship level, even down to League One, scrapping against relegation. So that's like well above average for us. But who's to say that shouldn't be not the expectation, but certainly the ambition of where we want to be building over the next 12 to 18 months. Not saying we're going to qualify for Europe next season, but we have to have that ambition that we want to build, get stronger, and hopefully getting back into that top 7.
Well, absolutely. And do you think under Lopetegui now, boys, that obviously it was, a bad season, a bad couple of seasons, especially with the goal scoring and stuff like that. But he's kept us up. We got 13th. But his job was to come in and keep us up. Do you now feel that because we've got set up and it seems like the managerial situation's settled, although there is reports of Al Hilal now trying to tap up Julian as one of the options for him to go to Saudi Arabia as well. So just when you think things are sorted, there's another bit of uncertainty. But I think he'll stay. Do you feel now that that's sorted? You made a really good point about Matt Hobbs, because it seems like him and Julian get on really, really well. Do you think that will push Wolves up the table next season?
It's like Lewis said about Matt Hobbs, that he's brought Lamina in for a small fee, to be a good player. So I think with the Coventry striker, Victor, he's going to be the same, come in for a small price and be a good goal scorer. So into the Premier League because and then Matt and Julian will think of other players to bring in from overseas as well to come and rebuild Wolves to push higher for next season.
Absolutely. And we all know that now that Wolves have got to be a bit careful in FFP. I mean, let's face it, £47 million, Paul. We could never have believed we were going to get £47 million for Neves. I mean, it's like probably 20 million or so more than I thought we would get. I mean, what a deal.
Yeah, the money's not bad, but I mean, I mentioned Rice before, and I've seen in the chat them mentioned about Mason Mount. Chelsea don't want to let him leave for less than 50 million, and he's only got a year left on his contract as well. So yes, it's a decent fee, but I don't think it's massively overinflated, really, based on other deals that we're seeing, his quality, his experience. So yeah, I mean, the key thing when you get a decent transfer fee in is spend it wisely. If we fluff our lines on that money now, not only have we lost our best player, but then we've wasted nearly 50 million. So we need to judge it based on who to bring in, really, as well, as much as anything.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna change tack. Just as a few people that have asked about coming on the channel, we're always welcome new people, especially when we get on to the new season. Extra time every single week. We have fans phone in, and if you do want to get on extra time when the new season starts, it's always a Sunday night show. You're more than welcome to come on and express your views. Just make sure that you get in touch with Always Wolves on any of our socials. I'll just drop the link for you there. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're even on TikTok now. So if you drop us a message on any of those and get in touch, and make sure you're following us when we get nearer to the extra time shows of the new season, you'll be more than welcome to come on and express your views. This is a special this week that we've got. So and if you're obviously brand new, make sure that you look at subscribing, because it means you can join into the comment section. Right, boys, we're gonna Paul, we're gonna move tack a little bit, because we're gonna talk about the away shirt, which I'm just gonna put up on the Wolves website. I'm just gonna share my screen with you there. This is the away shirt, and I'm just gonna flick through some of the images that you've got here. The red away shirt, which looks like, sometimes I think it's black with gold trims. Sometimes I think it looks like teal with gold trims at the patch at the top. Obviously, it's got the pattern. We know it's £60. Some people have said it looks like a bit like a strawberry with the patterns on it. Paul, can you ever remember us having a red second strip?
No, I can remember we had a white and red away kit when the likes of Kevin
Bet
Boyle.
were the sponsors then, weren't they?
Yeah, Sporting Bet. Must have been about 2010, 2011. And it was white with a fair bit of red on. Other than that, no. But I think if you go back to our conception in the late 1800s, I'm sure red was our primary colour.
Well, it was red and white.
Yeah.
And do you know why Wolves are gold and black? Do you know what the reason why Wolves are gold and black?
I feel like I should, but you tell me.
Do you know how? Right, I'm gonna let you. Boys, do you know why Wolves are gold and black?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? I didn't know this as well. And I went to Molineux because I was going for a meeting, and there was a history tour that was on. And I was in the the bit like the foyer when you go in and stuff like that. There was a history tour on, and there was giving a talk, and the gold, right, and black, and I thought that's really interesting, because loads of people don't really know the gold. The black represents the sun setting, and the gold represents the sun rising. Hence, out of darkness cometh light. That's why it's gold and black. The black's the night. The gold is the dawn, out of darkness. It all makes sense, doesn't it? And that's why we're gold and black. I never realised that before.
I've been educated.
Right, Paul. Before we go on to Lewis and Lucas, obviously we did a review show on the thing. What is your opinion on the away shirt?
I'm not too fussed, to be honest. I'm not too fussed. I mean, I still love wearing my black away top from the Europa League run. And for me, I don't need to go and buy another kit because I want to just wear that. I don't think it's disgusting, but it isn't something that's really made me think, wow, what an amazing kit. So I'm just a bit lukewarm on it.
Lukewarm. So what would you rate it out of 10?
I want to see it in person, really, to give a proper judgment. Don't know. Give it maybe a 6. It's just all right. But I'm not one of these fans that's fussed about kits, really. I don't look forward to the release when it comes out. I might just have a quick look, but I'm not fussed.
Okay, so you're a 6. Right, we're going to go with Lucas first to get your view, Lucas. As a 14-year-old, what was your thoughts when the kit dropped? What was your initial reaction?
I was in school at the time, so I've had a look on my phone, and I've just thought Portugal straight away.
You thought Portugal straight away?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And what was your initial reaction, Lucas?
So I think when I saw it, I felt the same. They were taking a lot of inspiration from the Portuguese national shirt, but I think it was the 2020 and then 2021 season where they made a burgundy and green shirt.
Yeah.
And I think
apparently, just stop you there, that apparently is the biggest selling Wolves kit of all time.
Yeah, I think the second one might be the Mexican
I didn't
shirt.
like it.
Yeah, I think that one did a better job at, if their ambition was to replicate a Portuguese shirt to encourage sales there and kind of fit the strong contingent that has been here over the past few seasons, then I think they did a better job a few years ago. I like the shirt. I think it's okay, and it has grown on me. But I still think when in the future we will look back and say that was the second best out of the attempts to replicate the Portuguese shirt.
Okay, and Lucas, what's your rating out of 10 for the kit? Are you wanting to get it, or you're like?
I don't know, because I keep spending loads of money on kits, so I'm trying to keep my money down.
Have you got a lot?
Too many.
Yeah, your brother's laughing, so I'm taking that as a yes.
Yeah, I'd probably say I'd give it a 7.5 if I see it in person.
7.5.
Yeah, but I'm not in a rush to get it, so I might just wait to see who we sign, and then depends who we get.
Fantastic. And what about you, Lucas?
I would give it a 6.5. I think it's nice and it has grown on me, but yeah, I agree with Paul. I'm not really a big, I'm not majorly bothered.
Do you guys get many of the away kits, or is it mainly the home shirt that you tend to get? I got the teal last year. I really like the teal.
Yeah, I tend to pick one, and then obviously later on in the season they do quite good offers at the club, where they'll do maybe 2 for £20, and that's quite good. But yeah, at the start of the season, I'll tend to pick one. So I'll wait for all three if there is three to be announced, and then just pick whichever one I like.
I think there definitely will be three. It is. I think most people are a bit surprised with the red, because we've never traditionally Wolves have had white away kit, black, teal. I think we've even had a blue, but I don't like as Paul said. I don't think we've ever had a red as a second kit. Personally, I'd have seen that as a third kit. That would have been like as a third kit. That'd come out as a third kit. I'd gone okay, but as the actual official second kit, I'm not so sure. There's a lot of people that it's a bit of a Marmite kit. Some people have I really love it. And then there's some people that really hate it. Guys in the chat, could you do us a favour and give us a rating and a one-word comment of your reaction to the kit? And then Paul's going to just talk a little bit about Nathan Collins and his thoughts on Collins and the Brentford, whilst we get your input on that, Paul.
So I haven't looked at my phone really last couple of days, but from where I see things, it's advanced talks and 25 million. Is that what you think, Dave, as well?
It seems to be edging that way, yeah, from what some of the media reports. There's a couple of 0 out of 10s there, so straight off the bat. Carry on, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a transfer that really splits opinion. There's on one hand, you've got the fact that we signed him for 20 million last year. Apparently, there were some really big teams interested in him. Brentford are notoriously good recruiters. They do the homework on players. They look at the stats. So there's part of us that might think, well, he's very young. He can only get better. And other teams obviously see his potential. But on the other hand, you might think, well, if it is 25 million, that's 25% profit on a player who's not really played since Christmas, since Julian came in. He's chosen Max and Craig as his top centre-half partnership. So you could look at that as good business. The fact that we made a good profit on a player that's not starting in a short period of time. Personally, if I think Brentford are really interested, which it seems that they are, we could try and get the price up a bit more. So I'm on the fence a bit for the 25 million, but I think if it goes above that, then you could reinvest that money probably into two good players around the 12, 13 million mark. And it also depends on what's happening with Connor. Toti Gomez obviously done very well towards the back end of last season. Mosquera has done very well on loan. Is it Columbus he was at in America? So there's loads of little factors which would influence whether this is a good move or not. And at the moment, I think it's about 50-50. So that's where I'll stop for now.
Lewis and Lucas, I don't know if have you ever had a chance to have a chat with Nathan?
No, I think because Nathan he was at Burnley, obviously. When he arrived, he was capable of doing things himself because obviously he drove here and everything he needed to do, he could take care of himself. But I would say I agree with Paul. I think it is a 50-50 one because, like you said, Brentford do their homework with transfers. They don't waste money. They're a very efficient club. So if they're interested, they can see a player in there. And also, for Wolves to spend 20 million on him last summer, they also saw a player in there. I know it hasn't been as a successful.
Well, he's only 22, isn't he, Nathan
Yeah,
Collins? For a central defender, that's quite young. Most central defenders don't really start to mature into their peak until they sort of get to their mid-20s. So he's quite young. And I feel like Nathan has a lot of ability. But it depends on Lopetegui, really. If Lopetegui wants to keep him, he'll keep him. But does he see Kilman and Dawson as the main two? He's not going to switch to a back three. You've got Totti Gomez coming in there. And I've been really interested to also think, what are your thoughts on Connor Cody? Obviously, not the option not taken up. Can you see Cody coming back into the fold, or do you think he's going to do you think he'll be moved out? If we sell Nathan Collins, does that not make it more likely that Connor Cody stays at Wolves?
I think it's possible he can certainly stay. Obviously, with Connor, I think people undervalue him sometimes as a defender. I do think he has limitations, but he's not as bad as people sometimes make out. I think he's a fair Premier League defender, and he also brings in really good leadership. And the managers he works with, obviously, Gareth Southgate trusted him a lot. Nuno trusted him a lot. So I think what he does lack in defending, which isn't a lot, he does make up for with the the extra qualities, which is good to have around the dressing room, especially with the departure of Ruben. There will be gaps where, especially with Moutinho leaving as well, there might be a lack of leaders in the dressing room this season if we continue to recruit younger players as we have done over the past few years. So it's possible I see him coming back, but it's just again whether he will be happy to if Julian sticks with the two of Kilman and Dawson, if he will be happy to sit on the bench, or it's possible he'll go to a back three. It's really difficult to say.
Fantastic. Well, guys, we're coming up towards the end of the show. So obviously, if you are brand new around here, make sure especially if you're enjoying having Paul, Lewis, and Lucas on the show, make sure you smash a like. If you subscribe, you can comment, and you'll be always able to comment on the videos. We're going to open the floor now for the last 5 or 10 minutes to you guys in the chat. So if there's any questions that you want to ask me, Lewis, Lucas, Paul, or all of us as a panel, we've got 5 minutes to finish. And if you want to just let us know if there's anyone watching very, very far away live, that we're always interested to see where you are. Lewis and Lucas, just one thing before I get back to Paul. Moutinho, you would have obviously have had chance to talk to Joe Moutinho. What's your take on how he left? And have you got any little nuggets of what actually happened there, from what you heard? Because he sort of disappeared, and Neves has come out and done a beautiful video saying goodbye, not just a comment. We haven't heard a peep out of Joe Moutinho.
I think it is. It's a bit of a shame because obviously he was part of that cycle we spoke about earlier, and it was such a successful part of the club's recent history, and he was really pivotal. I remember the Tottenham game in the first season of the Premier League when we played away. We struggled a little bit in the first half, and then Moutinho was introduced in the second half, and the game changed, and we went on to win the game. So I think it is a shame there wasn't as much of a deal made about him leaving. And I know the Portuguese players especially, he held a very strong influence with them. They really did look up to him like, a senior figure because of, I think he's the second most capped player for Portugal. So there was a big, massive respect amongst the players, for him. So I think for him to leave so quietly. It seems strange, but it's possible that in the end things happen behind the scenes that nobody even knows about sometimes, and it could have just been that. And I hope he will go on to do good things at his next club.
Well, I should have come out the thing. We've got Gregory McNeil has got a question for Lucas. What's your favourite halftime snack at Molineux?
Probably, I don't eat much at Molineux. I go into Asda before the game to get my sweets. But if I had to pick one, probably a sausage roll.
A sausage roll, I love it. This one for Paul. Do you think we'll sign Busquets as it'd be amazing Neves replacement?
Probably a bit out of our league, isn't he, in our price structure? I mean, I don't think in general that the middle of midfield is an area for priority. Not saying that we shouldn't sign a good player there if they become available. But I think we're going to see a lot from João Gomez next season. If he is only playing 2 in there as well, probably with Lamina, you've got Nunes to think about, Boubacar Traoré coming back in. We've heard Lopetegui talk highly about Joe Hodge. So I don't think that's probably a realistic shout, and it's not the area of priority really for our transfer business.
Chris Humphries is continue on, because you did refer to it's not the priority. Would like to know what the panel thinks is the immediate position we need to recruit this summer. Paul?
Let you two lads go first.
I'll go on then, guys.
I think given the struggles in front of goal the past 2 seasons, and even before that, really, a striker has to be the priority. But I think it has to be the right type of striker. Obviously, last summer we signed Gonzalo Guedes, and it didn't really work out at all. I think Cunha's come in and he's done a really good job at, I think he's created chances, to be fair to him, and he's scored a couple as well. But I still think we're lacking someone I would describe as a selfish number 9 who, rather than looking to pass, will just hit the ball. And sometimes he'll face criticism from his teammates if the pass was on. But if he had the shots, then we work the goalkeeper. And I think it really, you encourage the team to have more shots. And if you have more shots, you'll probably score more goals. I like Cunha a lot. Obviously, the fee is quite high for him. And I think possibly too high for the type of player, because with such a big need for a number 9, a selfish number 9, the money probably could have been used better elsewhere. But, I think, it has to be a number 9.
Paul, do you concur with that?
I agree, yeah. I mean, for me, a player that's really stood out in the Premier League in the last 6 months is Isak at Newcastle. I know he would be out of our price
I like
range
him as well.
when Newcastle signed him. They spent 60 million on him. But he's the kind of player that we need because he's good at everything. He is quick. His movement's very good. He can finish. He's physical. He's strong. Very good technically as well. So we need to do our scouting and find the next Isak. That's what I would say would be my top signing.
A question here from Charlie to Lewis. Do you think Rafa Mir deserves a chance at the club, play for Sevilla well?
Yeah, I think Rafa struggles to adapt to the English culture. I knew Rafa quite well personally, and even when he came back to England after leaving to join Nottingham Forest on loan, he arrived and he thought it would be a really big opportunity for him, and it just doesn't quite click for Rafa in England, unfortunately. And I think it's a shame because he's a good player. He can score goals, but I think sometimes players come to the Premier League, similar to Guedes, and they just can't do it in the Premier League, and they'll leave and they'll be able to return to their form often that they had before arriving. But it's just never quite the same in England. I think it's so difficult, especially for the younger players, who come from, Spain, Portugal, maybe even Italy. The football is fairly slower. I think if you look at the numbers for possession turnovers in the Premier League, it's so much higher than in Italy, Spain and Portugal. And this kind of small thing, in the game, and as well as living in England, it's tough for people to adapt to sometimes. So as much as I would like him to return personally, as a friend, I think it would be a bad move for him.
Fantastic answer. Paul, and then the boys, Giles, will he be given a chance? Given his amazing season for Borough last season,
He should definitely be given a chance. I mean, it's not just Borough last season, but the season before at Cardiff. He's playing in a back four as well, but still getting a lot of assists. And we've struggled, I think, with our crossing. For me, that's a big problem we've had for a while now. So he should absolutely be given his chance, and I have every belief that he will be over the pre-season. In terms of will he stay or not, I mean, the other side of the coin is a very saleable asset, because young English player off the back of 2 good championship seasons in a row, somebody could come in and make quite a big offer for him. But for me, I would like to see him given a chance next season in the squad.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm exactly on the same in regards to that. I think Ryan Giles, he's been the standout player in the Championship for 2 years. If he wasn't our player, we'd be linked with him.
Yeah.
We'd be linked with him anyway. So to me, he's surely got to be given an opportunity. But we'll have to wait and see on this. Tommy Taylor says, good show. Those young guys know their stuff, which is fantastic. Lucas, what's your thoughts on Hugo Bueno?
He's a good young player. A good young player to have coming up from the ranks. He's impressed me this season, to say how young he is and how good attacking and defensive he is, coming up against that experienced Premier League wingers.
By any chance, are any of your mates joined us tonight?
Yeah, quite a few.
I've kind of noticed some of them are very polite and everything, which is really, really nice. Just one little comment to everyone that's chatting in the chat: if you put in capitals and demand attention, you won't get any. And also, YouTube also monitors all the comments, so you'll be flagged if you say anything stupid. So just if you're new, just bear that in mind, because you don't want to get your YouTube account banned, do you? So fantastic. Lucy says our young players are fantastic, need to show their worth. I'm just running down the rest of the comments before we think. I think that's pretty much it for tonight. We're just coming up to an hour. Guys, I hope you enjoy this new feature on the ball. We've covered off quite a lot now tonight with Neves, the kit, and your questions. Thanks for ever so much for joining us live. I know lots of you will be watching this back on Catch Up on the channel, and it will be out on the Always Wolves podcast tomorrow. Lewis and Lucas, have you enjoyed your debut?
Yeah, it was good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us on.
Yeah.
No, welcome. Paul, what's your comments on Lewis and Lucas? I think they could make us redundant. What do you think?
It'd be great to see them on the show more next season. They spoke really well tonight and made some really good points.
Yeah, I love to get some new blood involved with the channel. So if there's anyone that wants to do any special pieces of content for the channel, such as, like, I don't know, the best signings that Wolves can make and stuff like that, get in touch with us and we can do some videos and stuff like that. Other than that, you're gonna need to wait until the extra time show when the season kicks off in 6 weeks, because we do want to have lots of people's opinions on the weekend's events, and that is a phone-in show that anyone is able to get onto. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, smash a like. If you're brand new, subscribe. If you like listening to these things on the podcast, it'll be out on Monday morning. And from myself, Paul, Lewis, and Lucas, I'd love to all you lot and your families out there, wherever you are listening or watching the world. And finally, always Wolves.